Cassandra Hesseltine from the Humboldt Del Norte Film Commission commissioner, joining us live in the studio today on a very, very rainy day. And you are coming to Del Norte today for what?
The chamber dinner.
The chamber dinner
tonight. Yes,
and that's up at the Smith River, in the casino at Smith River.
Correct.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. I've been spending a lot of time on the website and looking through things and looking at the work that the Film Commission does. And of course, everybody is still excited in Del Norte County about BirdBox. And BirdBox would not have happened here without the work of the commission.
Aw.
I guess I meant to, let me rephrase that. BirdBox would not have happened here without the work of the commission.
There we go. What was a compliment is now a question. Yeah, I would say safely in this case, yes. And not just the commission. I mean, there was a lot of players who helped make it happen in the community. And so I'm eternally grateful for what they've done. But yes, it was probably the hardest movie I've ever worked on in my 18 years of working in the film industry.
Wow.
And I wouldn't say it was hard because they weren't difficult people by any means. They were great people to work with. It was just hard because of what they wanted to do and where they wanted to do it. So that was the challenge. It was a challenging one in that regards. And then it changed time from when they wanted to film in October versus January when, things could be turbulent. Rivers could be, scary at that time with two little kids and a famous movie star. So there was things that we had to work around and really help, make it happen, and permissions that we had to get that took a long time. Yeah. What's
the process of that you go through? How do you get a production like BirdBox to leave Hollywood behind and come all the way up here?
Well, what's great right now is we have a California tax incentive, which encourages them to film in California and gives them a bump if they film outside of Hollywood. So they get an extra 5% if they go throughout California. So they're already encouraged by money, and it's our job in the office to market the area and show off our locations. What do we have that's film friendly that people would want to come, bring their project, and educate them, because a lot of times they, maybe they don't have a project right then that they need redwoods, but I need them to know what we do and what we can offer. And then down the road, they think about us and then they call us for that. So that's a big part of our job. And then once they are looking and they need something that they think we might have, it's to help find it. Once they found it and the higher ups will say, yes, that's what we want, then it's our job to help secure that, make sure they get the permit. And that's really where there could be a problem. Once you get past the artistic side of it, now you got the logistics of, okay, now how do we make this happen? And that was the problem, is that it was trying to get everybody aligned.
I can't imagine the myriad of government agencies and all the different the interlocking agencies and things that you'd have to negotiate all of that. So that must be something that you do regularly.
So what's interesting is in some counties or cities or states or countries, their permits go through the Film Commission office. There's only one I sign on, and that's actually Humboldt counties. But everybody else is all the cities and Del Norte County and state parks and all of those other BLM, everybody, they all handle it. So I'm the middle person. I help the production like this. Oh, you're going to be on that side of the beach. Well, then that's who is the entity that does the permitting. And then I help the permit agency say, well, understand, well, no, they're not really going to do a landslide. You're going to hear the landslide off camera. They're going to throw one rock across the road. Now, can they have their road permit? So, and that was a true story that actually happened here in Del Norte. I have to help bridge the gap and step in if there is an issue or there are concerns and make sure the production is behaving appropriately, as well as making sure that our local agencies understand that they are going to take care of your concerns, and they're also going to spend a lot of money in our area. And so, to bridge all of that, and like I said, with this one, that was a big part of what we did.
And what did I see on the website? It was $1 million that the BirdBox had spent.
Correct, about $900,000 here in Del Norte and $100,000 in Humboldt. They hired an engineer that was also part of helping make sure that the permits go through and that Netflix did everything appropriate for the environment. But yeah, in January, $1 million.
Yeah,
and
that's
so,
something.
yeah, that's huge. All the hotels, about half of it was hotels. They were here for about 3 weeks. So you got people going out to dinner every night because they don't get that on set. They had days off. You have, the multiplier is for every dollar that they spent, which was $1 million. You multiply that by $2.95. So really, by the time with their days off and going out to eat, and by the time the money circulates in our economy, it was more like $3 million.
Wow, that's
was
excellent.
the impact of the movie. And then that's just production. So then film tourism right now, they've been doing all this research on it. Film LA has done a lot of research on it, and that can outweigh and surpass easily the actual initial amount of money that a production did. So we could get, triple that in just having film tourists come here. They, are going to want to see, oh, what's that river? And where was that? Where's the woods? People are going to, they're already flocking to the house in LA that the movie, when the whole thing starts happening to Sandra Bullock and the first house she ends up at, that house now is all of a sudden a tourist destination. So
that's cool. That's very cool. The one thing I really enjoyed, I found was I didn't know this was part of your website. I'm looking around on the commission's website that you actually you have pages both for Humboldt and Del Norte County for locals, for professionals, for people who might offer services that would benefit these productions, to put them in touch with locals to employ folks. And one of our DJs was a production assistant up there for BirdBox. Any idea how much productions take advantage of that and employ locals?
Yeah, absolutely. Because so the first part of our job, right, is to always, the reason they come here is for the location. Then we're there to help them with all the resources. So their vendors and their crew and what they need, sometimes casting. And often they definitely always need some type of PA. Even the smallest production they need a PA, someone to go run and grab lunch or whatever. And then they'll often hire locals for a location, to be on the location department. And then, it just expands. The bigger the production, the more they end up hiring. You might need PAs in the office. And you have, sometimes, a local, when we had After Earth in Humboldt County, we had a local be the driver for M. Night Shyamalan's wife and kids. Her only job was to drive them around while they were visiting and shooting the movie. So you never know what they're going to need. And so that's definitely a part of that $1 million is them hiring local crew too on top of that. So it's pretty exciting.
That is exciting. That's cool. Now, you'd said before that it was an interesting story how you secured BirdBox, how you got the production.
Yes, absolutely. So basically what happened is the location manager from After Earth, the Will Smith movie, he had remembered, what it was like up here, and he knew that we had some great rivers, and he was helping out a friend. He wasn't actually even working on BirdBox, but he knew a friend, another location manager that was, and needed some rivers to show the production. And he asked me for a photo. He says, do you have a photo of an epic river that maybe has a fork in it? Do I have a photo?
We got you covered.
Do I have a river with a fork in it? So, yes, I sent him, obviously, a picture of the Smith River and sent him one. And here we are.
That's it. Wow.
One photo.
Was it the picture of the forks?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. That's such an iconic photograph just here locally. It's neat to know that was
that's the one. That was it. And
cool.
Here we are now, 45 million accounts viewed, BirdBox in the first week later.
So they were also looking for redwoods. I mean, that's how you attract people, that they want the redwoods, right?
Usually it's the redwoods. That's the redwoods, Victorian villages, small town roads, because we, are known also for our car commercials. In this case, they weren't necessarily looking for redwoods. They just needed an epic river and something that obviously was looked very, nature, so that way when she gets out of the city and is in there, that you have this, vibe that, she's in a rural area, running from whatever this bad entity is. No, not a lot of civilization is what they needed. So they would have, gone anywhere. Had it been a killer river in Tahoe, it would have looked like that.
Was there competition? Others that were
the entire state. Yeah. They were looking everywhere. And part of, the issue that we always come across is we're so far, we're far from LA. So, sometimes they go, oh, let's only go halfway up the state or go by San Francisco, or can we go out to Tahoe or whatever? And in this case, we were the most epic one, the Smith River. I mean, come on, And once they came and scouted and saw the redwoods, they fell in love with that part, and that part added to it. Ironically enough, they loved it, set up shop, they were ready to film. And they all of a sudden stopped it. It was supposed to shoot in October, and they went. I mean, we were like moving in. I moved into my hotel room because I spent, I live about an hour and a half away from here, so I was spending so much time here that I actually was getting a hotel room, Monday through Friday, and I was there, brought up gift baskets and everything for everybody, and they got the phone call. We've pushed the shoot. We're going to shoot in January. And all of a sudden it was like, and we don't know if we're coming back.
Oh, wow.
Since it's January and it could be really turbulent water and very dangerous, we might go somewhere else. And so they started looking again. They went back to the drawing board and started looking at rivers again. And the location team, bless their heart, said, first of all, they pushed this part of the filming. They were continuing to film in LA. And the problem with that was then the location team said, well, we're the same people who are going to be in LA. How are we going to go scouting now for a new river? So now you actually have more danger because now we're not going to really be able to do our job right. And we don't, and really assess a new river. And also on top of that, the manager just said, Cassandra, you've done too much work for this movie. We really owe it to you to bring it back. And so I was very pleased with that response. So he did. But then that's actually when it got harder. We were just about to get our permits, and a lot of the agencies were like, well, wait a minute.
In October, you were just about to get your permits.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. And now all of a sudden we're asking, well, can we do the same thing but in January? And they got scared, and rightfully so. And it wasn't actually even, it was actually people who had to sign off on some of these permits out of the area. A lot of times something like this goes to another office, a Reading office, Sacramento office, whatever. And that's when we had to really kind of help out between GHD, the engineering group, making sure that Netflix did everything, and Netflix saying we will do everything, and the location department being amazing at taking care of the environment and the river and acquiescing to any need.
And nature too, because come January, kind of like it was a mild winter, so
we were lucky. They were
this
preparing for the
January
worst.
would be no. I mean, the Smiths
Exactly.
going off out there.
Yeah, but last January they were preparing for what if it is bad, and what if the water is 10 feet higher, and all of a sudden where are we going to film? And they had to change all their plans, and what's our backup plan? And so it became a lot of hard work. But they were willing to do everything, move every little protected frog. They were willing to, everything, whatever you need, we're willing to do it. Don't get in the way of fishermen, don't do, whatever. And they were like, we'll do it. And there was an outside agency that was holding it up, and it literally almost didn't happen. We had like 2 days to have a permit go through that. If things hadn't happened, we wouldn't have got it. So I, at that time, reached out to Senator Mike McGuire's office and Congressman Huffman and presented the environmental impact and the work from the engineer, and said, would you, please help us, help them and explain to these departments how it is going to impact our economy to not have this $1 million in January. I believe that they did give some good input about that. And
were they a help? Were they? Because they come across as very responsive representatives. I'm happy with them.
yes.
So, I mean, I did not realize that they were part of the of bringing
Their
BirdBox.
office was amazing, and
Wow.
both of them reached out to the biggest problem one that we had, and said, we support this. And the next thing I know, our permit was going through. They, it appropriately. Everything was done appropriately, but it was the support, I think, really helped push
fantastic.
it when we had somebody who was kind of roadblocking.
I'm glad I voted for him. So
Yeah, me too.
So
yeah.
was this out of the ordinary for productions that you've worked on? I mean, it seems like, first off, I wouldn't want your job for anything in the world, because
Thanks a lot.
It's like all the details, all the little things, all the stuff that you never think even once about when you're watching a film.
Right.
And I know there's a bunch of people standing behind the camera and they're all doing something, but it seems like any problem just would, by definition, being a film liaison, falls in your lap to handle.
Absolutely.
And
I've had so many problems that, like, some I can't even mention because it would be inappropriate. Production calling.
Darn.
So I'll tell you off when we turn the recorder off. I have had so many phone calls and emails in the middle of the night, or Saturday at 6 a.m. or whatever, and it becomes help us solve it, because I'm the person on the ground for them. They're out of the area. They come, we had, I think it was Evening with Beverly Loughlin with Craig Robinson. I think that was the one where the camera person twisted their knee.
Ooh.
And had to we had to find a knee doctor. We've had, just crazy things. ER, if someone has to go to the ER, I have liaisons at both hospitals, or all the hospitals actually, and be able to call them and say, hey, we're going to bring in, a movie star so that they can go to a separate room.
Oh, wow.
I've had all kinds of things. We've had to bring a nurse to the directors of Woodstock, and one of the directors was sick and didn't want to go to the doctor, and so we had to bring a nurse to the house, and I was asked to escort the nurse. So it's been amazing, and the worst time was when I was asked to, drive Brad Pitt for 2 days in a car, and I suffered greatly for my job.
Yeah, what do you talk about,
Right?
That's too bad.
So, yeah, I know. So sad. So sad.
So how did you get into this? I know it's been, 8-9 years now, right?
Yeah, 8 years as film commissioner. I did 10 years of film prior to that. I was doing producing and first ADing and some casting here as well. I produced and first AD'd in LA and then San Francisco, and then came up here and started doing casting for any productions that were coming to town, since I already knew how to do that. I think things really actually started for me when I was a young kid and I saw The Incredible Hulk, and I was like 4, and I'm sitting on a stool in my mom's...
The series?
Yeah,
the
original, right? Not the movies.
Yeah.
I'm not, do I look that young?
I was just, not assuming anything. I just wanted to make sure we were on the same narrative
I'm
page.
old enough to be like, a young little girl, and under 5 at least, and sitting on a stool watching, on the black and white TV where you had to turn the knob and the rabbit ears and the whole bit. And I'm crying. My mom walks in and she's like, what's wrong? And I'm just devastated. He's trying to get the car off his wife. And I'm sobbing. I'm so upset.
Oh my God.
And my mom's like, it's not real. They're acting. They're telling you a story. They're pretending, And I was like, what? I want to do that. And so I fell in love with acting.
Wow.
And at 14, started, taking drama in high school, and it's part of my, it was part of my major for college. And I've just always done plays, direct, act. And thought I was going to go to Hollywood to be an actress, and fell in love with production instead. And so
what
yeah.
about that change? I mean, it's one thing to realize that what you're seeing on TV is acting and to fall in love with that. But then at what point do you realize, okay, there's all this other, there's this person who's going to, in whose lap every problem will fall.
Right.
How does the actress or actor make the transition to that role?
I was asked to help on a film that a friend of mine was making a movie. It was, digital era was just happening. Everybody thought they were a filmmker. And so I was asked to help out my friend who he wrote and was going to act in it. And so he needed crew to help with auditions. And he said, I'll give you a small part if you do this. And I went, cool. First movie. And I'm in LA, moved back down and was just like, thinking, okay, it's the start of my career. And I am so type A and so anal about my paperwork and things like that, that they were, willing to make me a first AD. And I had never been a first AD. So I acted like one. I literally hired a first AD and studied him and asked him questions and read books. And it was my character. It was
That's
a first
great,
AD.
yeah.
And then I became producer because I was the only person who knew how to use QuickBooks. And, and it was just like hilarious. And so I totally just took this whole thing on as a role. And when I did it, I realized, oh my gosh, I am so type A. I love organizing. I love helping make a movie happen because, I might not be the actor. I might not be doing that form of art. You do other forms of art when you are a producer, or organizing it. It's an art in itself, but I also like to put out fires. I love putting out fires. I love damage control. I like, doing that. I'm weird that way.
What are you, sort of like sorry if things go smoothly?
Yeah, it's boring.
Yeah.
In my 40s now, I've learned to actually enjoy boring days.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I've now had enough bad stuff happen in life that I'm like, oh yeah, no, I don't need excitement like that anymore. But excitement of putting a movie together when you have, like I was a producer of a TV show, and we had no money. We barely had enough money to make this TV show, and I had for $500, I was supposed to go find an airport with an airplane and be able to film on the plane and have actors, and so we found a little place, I think in Hayward, and I talked this guy into it, and he let me do it. And we were there all day. He pulls his plane out and lets us on it and film on it and have our lunch there and our crew. And it was really exciting that I could solve a problem like that, So yeah, I don't necessarily want bad things to happen, but it's great to be able to say, hey, yeah, we made that happen. We helped make that happen.
So folks were probably excited to be part of films, right?
Usually. Yeah, usually that. I mean, we do get those documentaries that people aren't fans of, up here, but and we help them too because that's our job. But usually, yeah, especially when it's got a known actor in it and something fun, it's exciting. People are excited by that, and that was a big part of me. Originally when I was becoming film commissioner, I thought, oh, okay, this will be a fun, exciting job, and then I realized, wow, there's so much more to this job because it's about economic development in our counties, in two rural counties that really need money. And all of a sudden, I fell in love with the area and the people and wanting to help support it. So that part wasn't lost on me. It actually, became a really big part of my life was helping our community.
And do you like to appear in the film yourself, or?
Well, in regards to the movies that I work with, that would be a conflict of interest. So usually I can't do that. But student films, the students, once they always find out that I'm an actress, then they end up, I've been in several student films. I just directed my own short. So I can do my own projects and things. But usually if they're coming here and they're, and I'm helping them as the film commissioner, I usually don't let them know that I'm an actor.
What are you working on now?
I can't tell you. I'd have to kill you.
I'm sorry.
Also an assassin. A movie assassin. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, just between us. What do you know now?
Yeah.
Connie Chung tried that. I don't think it worked. Okay, so how many people in California are doing what you're doing?
So there are over 40 film commissioners throughout the state of California, and we're pretty unique in that regards. It's because we've had so much filming in California. Other places, there's one,
For like a whole state.
For the whole state. Maine has one, and then she might have liaisons like a clerk in some city, there that's who you pull the permit through or whatever. But for, other places, this is a unique situation in California.
So tell me then, I assume this is leading into this next question. Tell me then about the film liaisons in California of Flick, of which you are the president.
Correct, yes.
So what's that all about? Is it a bunch of you?
It's a bunch of me. Ooh, I don't know if I'd wish that off for anybody. Oh, I don't know if everybody wants a room full of me. But yes, it's basically 40 plus film commissioners throughout the state of California. We have what you call the California Film Commission, which is, our head office, Amy Lemish, who runs that. And that's a state government, agency. What Flix is we all came together and created a nonprofit so that we could support the agency and do things that they can't do. They can't lobby in Sacramento for tax incentives, but we can. We do an award show for location managers, and that's not something that that the California Film Commission does. And BirdBox just won, actually.
Oh, yeah. Is it the COLA Award?
Yeah,
is that what
the COLA Award.
Okay,
so we put that on. We also we were hosting a location trade show with the California Film Commission, but now we've postponed that this year and are looking at doing some other versions of that. But so those are things that we do to help promote California as a whole. So when I just went to London and went to a trade show to educate European market of what we had to offer, I represented Humboldt and Del Norte, but I also, mentioned to them, and we have Flix, and here's a website where you could put in, people can request a location. I need a beach somewhere in California that allows me to have a bonfire for filming. And then that email can go out to all of us, and then they're able to, statewide get help.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned going and lobbying for tax incentives. If you would help me out because I don't remember the details.
Sure.
The tax incentives available to filmmakers filming and to get them out of Hollywood.
Right.
It has tripled.
What
What was the number?
110. I believe the 1.0 program was 110 million, and we got.
And is that just total amount of tax incentives that the state will give out over the course of a year? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
and
wow.
then,
Okay.
And then we went up to 330 million
That's a
per
big
year,
chunk, yeah.
and that's in the 2.0 program, and that one ends in 2020.
Okay.
And then we've already lobbied. We spent last summer lobbying, and we were already able to get the governor to sign off before he left for the 3.0 program, and that will still be the 330 million, but it will also be there was some dollars that were not allocated that a movie might get it and then not actually shoot, and then that money didn't get used. So any rollover money is actually going to get to be used on top of that 330 million as well. So that's pretty exciting. And the program just gets better. We learn more, refine it. When Wrinkle in Time used it, then the producers were able to give notes to the California Film Commission and say, hey, maybe, adjust your application or the process this way. And so each time it's getting better.
Any idea, like say a production, let's just say BirdBox, how much of a tax incentive they received? Do you know what's it based on?
Yeah, it's based on how much. I think you have to be spending something like 60 or 70% of your budget below the line. So this isn't your actors, director, none of that. It's all below the line, crew, locations, all of that. It has to be in California, and it has to be so many days. It's not like a popularity contest.
Sure.
You really actually have to. It's a point system, and you have to turn in a really lengthy application that explains like how much crew are you going to hire in California? How much are you shooting in California? What is the days? What's the process? And then they get points for that. And then again, if you're shooting outside of Hollywood, so movies that film out of Hollywood in California are more likely to get it than a movie in Hollywood, but they still can get it too. So
just based on their breakdown of their budget and how much. Okay,
right.
Gotcha.
So if you get 20 people or 20 productions that apply, and 15 of them really have stellar, the top 15 or whatever. It's I guess each one starts taking money out of the pot until you get down until you use all the money that's allocated for that section. So you might have 15 out of 20 that get it, and it just depends on how the budget of their movie and then how much they'll get back from that, because it's 20% of below the line cost. And if a movie's 4 million versus another movie that's 40 million, that's going to adjust how many people are going to get part of it. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting program, and thank God we needed it because we had so much production, what we called runaway shoots that were leaving, and they were going to Georgia and now London and Canada. You hear about all these, productions. Eureka, they made the TV show Eureka and shot it in Canada, instead of shooting it in Eureka.
Well, that's like, the most popular New York city in film is Toronto, right?
Yeah,
that's what.
Yeah. So yes, it's just ridiculous. So we had to convince the Capitol basically that we weren't giving money to movie stars. We were keeping jobs in California and having families come back together. There was people the past 10 years who've said, I've never made a movie here. I haven't seen my kids grow up.
Oh, wow.
And they were, living practically in Georgia, but had their family in LA. And so it really became a quality of life issue. And that's how we got the representatives to hear that. And then to say, hey, and by the way, when they are here, they're spending a lot more money. Billions of dollars have come back to California now, and we've only had to give out, tax incentives for, 20%. It's a portion, not,
I think I'd read that A Wrinkle in Time was
over 100 million.
Well, no, that they were scouting. They were doing Northern California and then also Atlanta. They were kind of prepping for two different. Was it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and New Zealand.
And they ended up using New Zealand, correct?
They did just
shoot it
one spot.
Yeah. So, would the tax incentives play a role in
absolutely
in that decision?
Yeah, absolutely. Tax incentive and then location. So, ideally, you want your location to tell your story, and it should fit. But they'll nowadays try to make any location fit based on the tax incentive. And so that's the disconnect between producers and your location and art department, who has to deal with that, and your director who might want, a certain look. But the producers are like, hey, this is where the money is. And so this is where we're going to go. Yeah. So we finally are more competitive. When we only had 110 million, it was still hard. And then it was also a lottery. You picked a name.
Oh, wow.
Now it's a point system, and we have a lot more money to compete with.
That's fantastic. That's really cool. What kind of guy is Brad Pitt?
What kind of guy? He's a very nice gentleman.
I was hoping he'd be a very nice guy.
He is. He's actually a really fun, nice gentleman. He was really great. He ended up being an acquaintance after that and like loaning me a motorcycle.
My God, really?
Yeah. Just a really nice
cool.
person. Yeah, he was really nice. So yeah, he was great.
Okay, so the Film Commission's been around since 2010, correct? Or is that when you started?
That's when
with
I
it?
started.
And you started at an interim sort of?
Correct.
Okay.
I actually had just walked off the TV show where I had to find the airplane. There was some, shenanigans happening, and it was time for me to leave as a producer. And so I came home and caught up on like 3 days of sleep and got a phone call from the Film Commission. I had been on what they called the Friends of the Film Commission. This is before they were an official nonprofit and had a board. And so I had been part of them, and then I think actually when they became a nonprofit, I was actually president at one point of the Film Commission. And then I had left and went and worked on this TV show for about a year and came back, was home 3 days, got a phone call. Hey, our film commissioner stepped down. Would you fill in for a couple of weeks? I know you use them.
Oh, was it just a couple of weeks?
Couple
it was supposed
weeks.
To be? Wow.
It was October of 2010, and it was supposed to be a couple of weeks. And I ended up. Then they said, "Well, can you get us through the holidays? There's no way we can do search for film commissioner. And I went, sure. And so it was about February, and I remember we went to a chamber mixer, and afterwards my boss, the president and vice president, asked me if I wanted to go have a drink after the chamber mixer, and handed me a drink and was just telling me how great of a job I was doing, and went to order me a second drink. And
You're either
just
getting fired or hired.
Yes,
here.
yes, exactly. And I'm like, did you take me to a bar to get me drunk to tell me to get this job? And they said, yeah. And I'm like, let's just stop now. I will accept the job, So it was quite funny, but yes.
So
That's what happened.
in your tenure, do you have a number readily available in your mind? How much money has the commission brought to Humboldt and Delaware County?
I just glanced at the wall, which is about a year or two outdated, but as of probably a year or two ago, it was about 26 million.
26 million.
Was that with the multiplier or without the multiplier? That might have been with the multiplier. Yeah. So for those of you who can't see, my assistant's sitting next to me, feeding me information.
I'm right here. I can't see him either. I don't know who she's talking to.
It's because I got the blindfold on still. So. Yeah. If you haven't seen BirdBox, it's a reference to that. Nothing else. Millions, in the past 8 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. So,
yeah.
I mean, if we backwards engineered from the multiplier, which I'm sure changes over
9.
time.
Yeah. 9 million.
About 9 million.
And that was probably before BirdBox. So that was definitely, we're obviously more like 10 or 11 million now. And then, triple that.
Wow.
So we're about, 30,000-ish, every 30 million-ish.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is truly amazing.
Yeah, for a rural area, it's very good. I mean, obviously Santa Clarita probably does that in a year, but they're the back lot and have all these studios for film production.
You got to go home in Santa Clarita.
Yeah, exactly. and I instead, exactly. We get to go home here. And we get about 25 productions a year here. So, in 8 years, I've done a couple hundred. Just in this area. Most of them, they can range from anything from car commercial to reality TV to print ads to documentaries to indie feature films to studio feature films. So music videos, I've done it all.
Biggest production, most work you've had to do. Not craziest, not not looking for dirt or stories.
Sure.
But just the most work you've had to do.
I think obviously BirdBox was one of them. Having to relocate for a lot. I mean, there was months where I was not in the office and I was living here in a hotel.
Yeah.
That was one of them. And having to go and ask for 2, congressmen and a senator to help and the phone calls and the things, that was a really intense one. Another, what can also be really intense though is indie feature films because they have so low resources and a lot less money. And Beverly Loughlin, the Craig Robinson, Aubrey Plaza one.
Which I just found out today about for the first time on the website, and I really want to see that because I love both those people.
Oh, it's great. It's such a distorted, weird, great movie. Yeah. And they filmed the entire thing in Humboldt and mostly in Eureka, about 2 blocks from our office. And so there was a lot of hand-holding. And I loved it because that's what I did was a couple indie feature films and on my TV show. So it reminds me of my producing days, but that's like every day, all day long, like all the departments reaching out to me. Hey, Cassandra, we need this, or, our department, we need 15 cars from the 80s, okay, we'll help with that. Our locations is needing a house or, a camera needed something. The camera department will call me, I mean, it's just constant, and so those ones end up taking a lot of my time.
Yeah.
In a good way though. I mean, that's what I'm here for.
That is exactly. And I mean, if I move incorrectly, I lose my headphones, which makes me doubt whether or not we're still recording. So I will cut all of that out. And then to be a commissioner in charge of a commission that has been responsible for bringing $30 million to local economy in the last less than a decade. That's amazing. That's an amazing contribution to everybody up here. Thank you.
Aw, thank you.
No, seriously, really, that's a lot. Do you know anybody who's responsible for $30 million of local economy or economic?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah. Wow. All right. I'm gonna have to pick up my game. All right. So it's we've been going for more than a half an hour now. Is there anything that we didn't ask you that you'd like to make sure gets said?
Is there anything that I need to see? I need to ask my assistant.
Yeah. See, did you forget anything important?
Okay. I would say I will like to say that as much as I do know that I work really hard and I've worked really hard in this job. And it's been a choice to do this instead of being back as a producer. I could not do it without makes me want to cry. My assistant, Nate Adams, as well as my interns. And I literally couldn't do this job. And
How long have you been her assistant, Nate?
I started as an intern over 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
now.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
most of this, you've been here doing
Yeah,
this, right?
absolutely. Yeah. And I started full-time as her assistant coming up on 3 years ago.
Okay. All right. So next interview is just with you.
Would you tell us more about your intern program? That sounds interesting.
yeah, it's usually college students, but it could be anybody, intern/volunteer. And what they do is they come, a lot of times there's two different kinds and sometimes they'll overlap, but ones that come to the office and help out a couple hours, once a week or so. And then there's ones that like to help with our events. So like when we have movies in the park or we have, a red carpet gala or things like that, or movie screenings, our interns come and help, run all of that. And we couldn't do it, without them. We have a great board as well who also helps. And between my board, my interns and my assistant, that's who runs the ship, and,
Are
I just step out of the way.
students of colleges in the film area, or
Often they'll be part of the film department at HSU or CR. But we also have high school students who've come and been fantastic, and I've even had someone from like a senior resource, person that came in that was referred to us, and so I've had all ages, everything from like 80 to 16 or something,
And I guess anybody interested in getting into the quote unquote industry, right? This is the closest thing to it in Humboldt and Delaware County, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so this helps give them a better perspective and realize there's other departments. Not everybody can be an actor, writer, director, and there's other things to do, and they fall in love with
There are other
it.
Oscars.
There are other Oscars to get, So yeah, it's great. I think it's been really interesting to shape the minds around here and help them understand how this works. And because I did work in the industry outside of here, I can bring that to the table too. And we kind of run the office like a production. I don't run it like a nonprofit or, a city agency or something. It's we run it more like film.
Oh, wow. So for local, anybody locally here who has a service, a business, something that they feel that they can be a benefit for a production, I noticed that there are county-specific pages on the website for Humboldt and Delaware County for these folks to be listed. How can they get a hold of you? Is it just a matter of going to the website and clicking and submitting something? Is there is there a certain type of business or service that you look for?
Yeah, and it's listed on there, so the categories are on there. If someone though does think that they could be a value to a movie, and we don't have that category, we have added categories in the past.
Okay.
Crew is on there. Most popular you're going to get hired is like art department or a PA. If people sign up to be a director, that just doesn't normally happen. Just to not burst any bubbles. But that, so, and they can email us if they have questions or concerns or comments or a joke, whatever they want, they can email us. We prefer that you don't call the office because we get so many phone calls.
Yeah, okay.
But if you need to, then we're obviously available for that as well. It's just we're slower to return. And they could check us out on Facebook. That keeps people in the loop of kind of what's happening, what we're allowed to tell people. If there's, cars needing to be hired or actors needing to be hired, we'll put stuff on there. Yeah, I can't think of what else do we have. We have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have Facebook. Those are ways of, and then also homes. Location. So if people have interesting isn't always the most beautiful, pretty, believe it or not, we get a lot of scary movies and a lot of things that they want something run down. Interesting.
You were involved with Love in the Time of Monsters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you remember what the commission did for that production?
I do.
Because
that
that was basically a band of kids putting on a show, right?
That was like a band of kids.
Yeah.
It was. They spent $75,000 here because I remember that was the first big one in Del Norte that you guys hadn't had in a long time, and they only had so much money, and they were trying to pull a permit that was going to cost them $10,000, and they said we can't come now. If it's $10,000,
that put them out.
That put them out.
Wow.
And I was like, oh no. And it was like, early in me getting Del Norte, and it was really important to me that you guys had a production, that brought some money in. And the writer had fallen in love with the lodge and just wanted to film here, and this was it. And so I thought, okay. And so I called the entity that was providing the permit. It was a federal agency, and I found a loophole and said, I think you're, and now feds are going to show up at my door. I think you're double dipping.
As long as they show up at your door.
I know, right? And they said, I think you might be double dipping. And the guy saw it and went, I think you're right.
Wow.
And they cut it from $10,000 to $1,000, and the production was able to stay. And so Yeah, that was the biggest thing that we did for them. I think, a lot of smaller other things, but that was the big one. That was the breaking point.
I had heard just anecdotally from friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. The commission, they just helped with a permit.
No.
No, it was a little more. Yeah, okay.
No, I helped with crew. I helped get the lighthouse in touch with them for casting. No, I had to go literally to a hotel and talk between the hotel owner and the crew member who was fighting. They were having a verbal argument, and I had to drive from Arcata, at the time we were in Arcata, and drive all the way up there and step in and intervene. No, I do much more than permits.
Okay. That's, yeah.
And a matter of fact, I get offended.
Where is the home that was in BirdBox? It's now a tourist attraction.
It's in LA, and I actually, did you see that post, Nate? Yeah, I don't remember exactly where it is, but I know if you Google it, it comes up because I saw a post about it. That
I
it's
thought
now,
it was a local home that was in there.
Oh no, this is one in LA, but I think because right now, the movie just came out and people who are in that area are going there. So we anticipate spring, summer, and fall. That's when our turn will happen. People are going to start making their plans to go visit the Redwoods and Smith River and see where this movie was filmed. It happened in the Carolinas when Hunger Games came out. It happened with Twilight. It's a thing. And so that's why we have a map of the movies that you can find on our website, and you can go do movie tours and your self-guided movie tour. And it's a great thing. We already, we run out of 10,000 maps every year. The state parks have told us it's the number one map that goes away.
Excellent.
And we've had, I don't know how many, I want to say over 700 views on Google Maps. 700,000, I mean. Something like 700,000, I think, on Google Maps, where people, we've had a lot, something crazy, some big number, I know, so yeah, a lot of people, hotels are starting to tell us people are staying an extra day or two and doing this. So I'd bet my firstborn, I like her though, but I know we're going to have some economic boost in tourism from this.
Are there some movie maps at the chamber office here?
There will be. They're in the trunk of my car right now, and they are going to be driven there in about 2 hours. There will be. Yes, and we're constantly updating them. Obviously, we have to add BirdBox, so the next batch that we print will have BirdBox on it.
Okay. Cassandra, thank you very, very much for coming in and speaking with us today.
Thanks for having me.
I learned a whole bunch.
Yay.
And for anybody wanting to check out what the commission does, the website it's filmhumboldtdelnorte.org.
Correct.
Okay, because I keep jumping around between county-specific pages, so it's messing up the URL. But that's what I could backwards engineer there. Filmhumboldtdelnorte.org, and you can find out all kinds of things about Cassandra, the work she's done, what the commission is doing, links to other organizations too. You can find out about flicks there as well. Or did I just find that in an article?
Yeah, you probably found that in an article. Flix is Film California, and I think it's filmcalifornia.org, I believe. Maybe .com. But .com, filmcalifornia.com, and that's all about flicks. Yeah,
Okay.
film commissions throughout California.
Excellent, and again, thanks for helping bring $30 million to the North Coast in the past 8-9 years. Thank you very much. That's awesome. That is really awesome.
Thank you,
Cassandra Hesseltine. Hesseltine,
there you
Hesseltine, Commissioner for the Humboldt Del Norte Film Commission. Joan, anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you also from me. That's wonderful. Great interview.
Thanks for having me.